Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. Today has finally come. I can't believe it myself, but I am making a video on the Red Velvet Dragon. A lot of people have requested me to make a video on it before, but I had always not done it because Red Velvet Dragon was not a very viable option to attack, and it is way more efficient to attack 2 bosses instead of 3. But recently, with the addition of Prune juice, this has changed quite a bit. I hadn't made a video just yet because all the previous teams were really hard to run, like you needed very good toppings or you needed very high ascensions, and I didn't think that was reasonable. But with this variation of the team, which went through quite a bit of development and a lot of people have worked on it, which I will be crediting right on the screen right now. I saw a lot of people working on this in my Discord server as well, and thank you to all of those people too. But with this team, it's a lot more feasible for everyone to go back to attacking Red Velvet Dragon instead of Avatar. You will be missed. So let's get right into the team, shall we? The team is as follows: Space Donut, Milky Way, Sherbet, Prune Juice, and then Eclair. Pretty much all of these are mandatory. The only one that is not mandatory here is Eclair. I have seen people replace Eclair with either Stardust because he also applies weakness.
Will take the cookie side.
But he does it in a worse rate than Eclair, but he will be better if you're relaying. And also he does attack down to the boss, so that makes it a lot easier if you are struggling to survive against the boss itself. And for the treasures, it will be Scroll, Pincushion, which very heavily boosts Prune Juice damage, which will be the main damage dealer here anyway, and then the Squishy Jelly Watch. If you have the Squishy Jelly Watch at level 12, just use the epic one if you have it at level 12. But here we do not have it at level 12, so we will just be using the common one. But I will be making this video using Eclair instead of Stardust. So let's get right into the toppings. So for Space Donut, you have a few options to run, but I will be using a full cooldown set where as much damage resist as I can get and at least 23% cooldown. What you can do alternatively, if you can't reach 23 cooldown with good damage resist, you can lower the cooldown to increase the damage resist instead. Or you could even put an almond in it if you want them to survive longer. That is fine, and it's especially good if you have a lower promo donut. Alternatively, there is a strategy where you use 5 almonds on donut. I can't show this myself because it's quite high requirement. If you cannot get a set with at least 45% DR and at least 8.8% cooldown on your donut, I don't recommend using almonds and just using cooldown instead. Then, Milky Way. For Milky Way, you could actually use your Abyss set, which is very convenient. And to recap, for her, you will need at least 23.5% cooldown. Attack speed is very appreciated because she has a very slow cast, but damage resist will not be needed for her, which is a relief. Then Sherbet, because this boss has damage reflect, if you may remember, so if you hit it directly it will reflect damage back at you. Unfortunately, Sherbet is a very high target of this, so for him we will just be running full damage resist, get as much damage resist as you possibly can, and avoid crit percent if you can. I didn't exactly do it very well here, but just get as much damage as you can. And yes, he is meant to die anyway, so it's fine if he gets to cast and he doesn't need any more damage resist than like 47%. He should live. Then Prune Juice, which thankfully also does not need any damage resist because all the summons and donut will all just be tanking all the damage. Same for Milky Way shields. But with Prune Juice, you would want as much cooldown for him as you can get, at least 23%. And then of course, focus on the attack percent substats because he's going to be doing most of the damage. You want him to capitalize on that and then use attack percent substats. Then, Eclair. You will want him on full damage resist as well for the same reason as Sherbet, because of the damage reflect coming back on him and he has to survive that. If you have a high promotion Eclair, like 4A or 5A, you will probably be able to get off 4 weakness stacks with a skill, which means you use a skill 4 times. If you don't have a high Eclair, it's most likely that he will die after a third cast, but you will still do very good damage anyway. But for him, full damage resist, you need at least 45%, I would say. Also, at least 4% cooldown is very optimal. And try to avoid crit percent, because if he crits on his casts, he's very likely to die, because of the damage reflect also increasing in damage. Additionally, if you are having a lot of trouble surviving with this team, because there is not really any form of healing, instead of the normal scroll, you could also use the rare variant of the scroll. You will have less attack percent, yes, but your defense will increase by 30%, so it makes it a lot easier to survive. But here, I can survive with a normal scroll, so I will be using a normal scroll. So, I will go right into the fight. Though keep in mind, we have not yet switched to Dragon as of recording this video, so I can actually not go on a higher level than 43. Its damage caps out at 34 anyway, but I could be dealing more damage than the boss HP. Like, people have been dealing 300 million with this, even higher if you're in a really high top guild or you have really good promotions. But the strategy will still work the same, and even though this is a quote-unquote lower level, even though it is max damage, you can still take this strategy exactly fine on high level or low level. So let's get right into it, shall we? Thankfully, the strategy is not very difficult to do. The most timing it involves is right at the start, where you just have to manual a little bit. And by this I mean you will be spamming Sherbet, Prune, Eclair, and Donut right at the start. You will wait to use Milky Way skill by about 3 seconds, because otherwise she will apply defense reduction onto the boss and Sherbet will hit it and just immediately die, which is something we do not want. So about on 57 on the clock, we will be using Milky Way skill. Then just keep spamming Donuts, Prune, Eclair, and Milky Way, but hold off on Sherbet. For Milky Way, we'll be delaying her skill by 1 second ago until 47, because otherwise she will do too much defense reduction to the boss again. At about 40, we'll be using Sherbet's skill. Now at this point, you can auto. Keep in mind to use and skill early if it happens to overlap with someone else. And as you can see, Eclair is very low, so it's quite hard to get the 4 stacks off. And he is meant to die right after this pass anyway. My donut died at the last second, which is very unfortunate. But yes, I just killed the dragon right away. It would have lasted about 7 more seconds, just purely poison damage from Prune. If you're using a full almond donut, then they would survive the meteors and you would get the full 1 minute duration of the fight, which makes you do even more poison damage and does give you a damage increase. So if you can run the full damage as this donut, I very highly recommend that you do so. Anyway, that's all you're gonna hear from the commentary run. I will just go right into a non-commentary run that's still very easy to follow. I might add some little bits afterwards, because there are some common problems I see with the strategy that I would like to talk about, but that's pretty much it. Let's go!
Special brew coming right up.
Right, that's down!
Special brew coming right up.
Victory is approaching!
Special brew coming right up.
Down!
Special brew coming right up.
Right, that's down!
Special brew coming right up.
Common problem number 1. Help! I keep dying! What do I do? Well, there are several solutions that you can do to this problem. First one being switching out your scroll for the rare scroll, as I mentioned before. Of course, you will do slightly lower damage with this, but lower damage where everyone lives perfectly like it should be is better than not so good damage because your Sherbet is dying very early or something of the like. So do not be afraid to just use the rare scroll if necessary. Then solution number 2 would be to not use Eclair. Eclair is a very risky way to go about this. It gives the highest damage, but if you have him and you can use him, use Stardust.
Why?
For Stardust, you will be spamming him just like everyone else. You will be running a full cooldown set on him, and do try to get damage as substats because he might also die, but of course not nearly as easily as Eclair. Common problem number 2. My Eclair is taking a significant amount of damage at some point. Why? Well, this is most likely because he is attacking the dragon while Milky Way has already cast. You have to keep in mind, you have to delay Milky Way by about 1 second until about 46 on the clock, otherwise her defense reduction will make Eclair take way too much damage and he will not be able to survive until his 3rd or even 4th cast. Also, if you want to get his 4th cast, remember that this likely will only work if you have a high promo Eclair with good damage resist, and as well as some decent support HP and defense level upgrades. Then, what about relays? Yes, it is very true that with this Sherbet strategy, relaying dragon is quite a task, but there are a few ways to make it a little better. Eclair takes a very long while to stack up, so if you have to do a relay where the boss is, let's say on example, 10 billion HP, instead of maybe using Eclair, you are better off to use Stardust. Even if he does less weakness overall, he will still stack up quicker to a higher weakness than Eclair, so you would clear that 10 million faster if you use Stardust instead of Eclair. Also, if you want to do low levels of the boss, because low levels have very little HP, it is better, instead of using Sharp to slow the dragon down so you can survive longer because he's not using the meteors very much, on lower levels where you are able to tank the meteors, it is also possible that you could just use Pomegranate instead, if I can find her at all. There she is.
For my master.
You can use Pomegranate as well because she provides an attack boost, not a crit boost. You do not want a crit boost, that's why Pomegranate is better than using Macron or Caro, for example. She will provide an attack boost to everyone so they can clear the lower levels even more easily. And that's it for this video. Again, special thanks to all these people who worked very hardly on this comp, and to my friend Conrad who would lend me his account again. A lot of videos are actually worked on us together. I just use the account of whichever of us is more easily able to run the strategy. And that happened to be his account this time because my donut is in a very sad looking state right now. I'm very sorry, Donut. Same for you, Prune Juice. But that is it for this video. If you enjoyed this content and if this was helpful to you, maybe leave a like or even subscribe. I very much appreciate it, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye! Common problem number 2. Help! Problem number 2. Help!